Hello everyone, welcome to a very quick tutorial on how to change your IP address in Windows 10. Let's get to the computer. Now that we're on the computer, we're going to go ahead and go through the IP change. The IP change I'm going to show you is going to be done through the GUI. There are multiple other ways to do it. You can do it through command line, you can do it through the command prompt, you can go through PowerShell and do it. They're a little bit longer and not something you're necessarily going to see in a help desk environment. The way I normally do it when I'm sitting or remoted into someone's system is through the GUI interface. To get there, we're going to hit the Windows key here, and then anywhere in there you just start typing CON, and that will show you the control panel here. There is another route to go about getting to it. Let's close this. We are going to press the Windows key on the keyboard and the R key. What that's going to do is it's going to bring up your run command over on your primary screen. Then you're just going to type in control and press enter. That will also bring up your control panel. In here, we are going to look for what is called Network and Sharing Center. Most of the time when you get onto a system, it's going to look just like this. It's not going to have the small icons and easy to find. They're going to be buried in here. That is Network and Internet, Network Sharing Center, and then that brings you to the exact same screen I was going to show you, which is done this route. I always go over here and I always make the icon smaller. This way I can pinpoint where I need to go. If I'm adding in a printer, I can go down here to devices and printers. Today we are doing Network and Sharing Center. So we're going to click there. It takes us right to the same screen. Once we're at this screen, we can either go to Ethernet, and that brings up the properties for that connection. The problem with this is in most environments today, you're going to find everyone or most everyone is running a laptop. A laptop has 2 to 3 different connections. So you'd always want to go over here to change adapter settings. Okay, and in here, you can see that it shows multiple connections, multiple NICs. So we've got the Bluetooth network connection, we got the Ethernet network connection, and we also have a Wi-Fi connection. Now in mine, we've also got my virtual machines in here from VMware. Not everyone's going to have those, but pretty much everyone, especially if it's a laptop, you're going to have an Ethernet connection and a Wi-Fi connection in most of them. And a lot of times the Wi-Fi connection is actually going to be enabled and in most cases can be the point of connection. They're not going to run an Ethernet cable to their laptop and connect unless they're using a docking station. That being said, what you would do is you would right click on whichever one it is and go down to properties. Here's the properties for the Ethernet, and no, it won't let me. What you would do is you would right click on your Ethernet connector, come down to properties, open that up, and in here you're going to see multiple options. If you scroll down, the one you're looking for is going to be either the IPv4 or the IPv6. Now the IPv6 should not change. You shouldn't have to worry about ever setting that in a system, but your IPv4 can. So highlight the IPv4, click on properties, and in here you're going to see a blank screen like this pop up. Obtain an IP address automatically. That means you are set up for DHCP. You will need to have your IP range or your scope that you are allowed to use if you are setting a static IP address for your system. To find out your range, you either go through a system administrator, you go through your standard operating procedures, you can even go to the technical officer that might have that information. Another way is if you're already on DHCP, you can get 2 of the 3 pieces of information you need. You can get your subnet mask and your default gateway relatively quick. To get that information, you're going to come down here to the start bar. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can right click, go to PowerShell admin, which is the way I prefer to do it. Another way is you can click here, type in CMD Charlie Mike Delta. That brings up your command prompt. I've got a habit of running it as an administrator, so click on Run as Admin. It's going to ask you, do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? Yes. Now that you've got this window open, one quick command, IP config/all, that will give you all of your network interface devices on this machine, their NICs, their MACs, and any other IPv addresses it has, like a 6. So we're going to scroll up. We're going to go up to the Ethernet, and you can tell where it is. You can find your command, and then right here is the basic configuration of the system. Right below that is going to be your Ethernet adapter. So on ours, you can see that our default gateway is 192.168.0.1. Our DHCP server is the same. It's a 192.168.0.1. IP address we are currently using is going to be this one. We know we're on DHCP, so we're not going to be able to use that address as our static if we set a static. The two pieces of information that you can get, though, that you need for over here, you can get your subnet mask. Actually, I guess it's more than 2, it's 4. But you can get your subnet mask, you can get your default gateway, which would go here. Use the following. Your subnet mask is going to be a 255.255.255.0. Your default gateway is going to be a 192.168.0.1. And as you can see, both those, here's your subnet mask and here's your default gateway. The other two pieces of information that are not normally auto-filled in these is your DNS server addresses. Now I've got the Google DNS and the Google alternate DNS here listed. Both those are not normal in an enterprise environment. Normally you would be using your own DNS servers inside your network. Since it's my home network, I'm not utilizing my own DNS server. I am using Google's. The IP address, however, you would have a range that you would have set aside specifically for statics. If you run, and I just ran into this last week, where we had an IP address that I had assigned. It was, just for figurative speaking, 192.168.0.158. Well, I had set my DHCP range to go from 0.158 all the way to 0.254. For anyone that's dealt in it, you guys heard exactly what the problem was. Is I had set a static as a 158, and I set my DHCP range 158 through 254. I went through and I actually changed the DHCP range to be 159 through 254, and that solved the problem. But I had to go through and do this. Well, I had to do an IP config release and renew on the desktop, so it pulled a good IP address, and I could put the static on the hardware on the network device that needed the static IP address. Always make sure you've got a range of reserved/static IP addresses that DHCP will not give out to other clients, or you get an IP conflict. Here we're just going to put in the same IP address I already had. That was 226, so we'll just put in a 192.168.0.226, did I say? 226. And you would hit OK, and you would hit close. We're not going to close this one out, but normally you would. Now to confirm that you're actually pulling that, you would go in here and just do an IP config. And that brings up your IP address. Now you can also go through, if you do an IP config all, and you can tell if it's on DHCP or static. Right here. DHCP enabled? No. Hence, we gave it a static IP address. Now we'll go through this one more time. We'll go into control panel. I'm going to show you the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi adapter should be exactly the same as your Ethernet adapter. So we'll go into here to change adapter settings, and we'll right click on the Wi-Fi and we'll go to properties, and in here we'll go down again to the IPv4. We will go to properties on that one, and as you can see, we are running DHCP on that as well. Now I don't use Wi-Fi on my desktop. Now if you were doing the exact opposite, if you were having problems, you would come in here and take a look at this stuff and make sure that your settings for your IPv4 are set correctly. To go to DHCP, it's real simple. You just come up here and click that. You're all set. And if we go back over here, we hit OK, we hit close. And if we come back here and we do another arrow up to the last command, and we come back up here, it's showing no. So what it didn't do was it did not refresh. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. That's an easy one. So we do an IP config / release, which releases your IP address through the system, and then you come in here and you do an IP config renew, and that goes out and talks to the DHCP server and says, hey, I need a new IP address, or my lease is about to expire and I need to renew my lease. This will most likely give us back the IP address we had. So let's see if that works. Okay, so as you can see here, our IPv address is not correct. Oh, that's the VM. IP config/all. It scared me there for a second. Okay, we come here and we've got the same IP address, but it shows DHCP enabled. Okay.